or not? Hawk, if I said Saquon Barkley is going to rush for 150 yards against Kansas City, believe it or not?
I'm going to go not. 150 is a lot. Come on, Chiefs. Have some pride. Don't let that man stomp all over you like that in front of the entire world. I do think they're going to devote a lot of attention to Saquon. It's going to force the Philadelphia Eagles offense to beat them in another way, which is the right strategy. We'll see what Spags has up his sleeve.
All right, we'll talk about that other way in a minute. Meanwhile, Neek, if I said Travis Kelce is going to be the Super Bowl MVP, you believe it or not?
Not. I mean, as good as Travis Kelce likely can play and does play in the playoffs, if he has a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns, you know who else has a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns? Patrick Mahomes, the guy who wins MVP every time they're in the Super Bowl.
How about if Kelce winds up winning MVP and retires immediately after the game? How about that? See it happening. Finally, Kmart, let's go the other way. If I said Jalen Hurts is going to outplay Patrick Mahomes in this Super Bowl, believe it or not?
Believe it. You know why? Because I've seen it. I've literally seen it with my own 2 eyes 2 years ago. And didn't Hawk just say that Saquon Barkley's not going to rush for 150 yards? This is a game where Jalen Hurts, everybody's thinking Saquon's going to be obviously the MVP, but Jalen, I think he could do some damage.
Well, let's talk about that, okay? Let's talk about exactly what Jalen is and isn't going to do. I want to play you a bunch of different sound bites sort of in chronological order. After the NFC Championship game on Sunday, Jalen had an interesting comment about his coach, and then yesterday the coach responded. You're going to hear all of it right here.
He's done a great job. He's done a great job. I guess he let me on my straitjacket a little bit today.
I think he was having fun after the game. You know, we've been winning a couple different ways this year, but I know this, and he said this plenty of times, he doesn't care how we win, as long as we win, and we do everything we can do to be able to win.
So I have Hawk here as a receiver, and we've had a lot of conversations about this. So him saying what he said, and again, his delivery is what it is, right? He just doesn't seem to have like a comedic.
just everything is just
smooth. Yes.
But it's also very serious seeming, right? Like, as he let me out of my straitjacket. If he smiles, it feels completely
I will
different.
say, I was in the room. He did smile. Like he did. Like it was tongue in cheek.
Right.
But like he meant it. He meant it. But not in a way of like I'm trying to show you up, but just sort of like I could throw the ball if I'm allowed to.
The question I was going to ask you is something or nothing?
It's something. I mean, otherwise there's no reason to even comment on it. Now, he could be taking jabs at the media who says that he'll need to throw it more than he's throwing it for them to win a Super Bowl. But the reality is everything runs through Saquon. My ability to run the football, I'm going to hit it to these top 10 receivers that I have on both sides of me.
Yeah, I mean, it's the strategy that's worked for them so far, and I think it makes the game incredibly interesting that we have two teams, or a lot of teams, that do things very differently. This is a unique team. You're right. We normally don't see teams make it this far that are so heavily dependent on the running game. But I think that we all know that Jalen Hurts has the ability. He just showed it last week. He showed it at other points in the season. But I think what Jeff and I have been talking about much of this season is, why would you if you don't have to? Exactly. It's like if you can make $1 million doing an easy job, why go make your job more difficult? But I do think that they've had a unique route to the Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to be as easy in the Super Bowl. They're going to get these opportunities like what we see right here, Hawk.
Yeah, and this is one-on-one. This is what we're talking about. We get a motion from A.J. Brown, clear bump and run coverage, 4th down. I mean, if he's even, he's leaving. You cannot guard A.J. Brown in this situation with no safety help. Right? In this moment in the red zone. This is just a straight timing route. I know if I'm A.J. Brown at the bottom of the screen, all I have to do is get this DB to tick his feet. If Jalen is just on time, on that back foot, let it fly, there's no way you can stop that. This is much of the same. Look at all this cushion he has. Now, this is a zone because it's like, hey, we cannot allow you to get beat deep. There is 15 yards of cushion. That is an easy throw it out there, 16-yard gain. And honestly, A.J. Brown could have probably gone for another 15 yards if he wanted to.
So that's the thing. The reason that we always say you have to pass the ball, the reason teams don't run the ball to win is because they generally can't, because they don't have the offensive line that the Eagles do, and they don't have the running back that the Eagles do. If every team had this, they would all do this because it is safer and easier than the other side of it. The problem is, and Jeff, you know this to at least some degree, is that everyone kind of wants to feel like the star. And
Absolutely.
like everyone can't be Saquon Barkley in this circumstance. And so when I hear a little bit of that, I do understand. It's not, I don't mean it critically, while there might be a little bit of, hey, you know, I'm pretty good too. I led this team to the Super Bowl without Saquon Barkley once upon a time. And A.J. Brown, well, I'm reading a book, but I could be out there doing this all the time if I wanted to. Like, I get where that won't always be the easiest.
Yeah,
way.
the problem in an NFL locker room is that everybody's really good, and they know, and especially A.J. Brown, where he's one of our top receivers in our game, and Jalen Hurts, this is his second Super Bowl in 3 years. So as they're looking at another touch, I could have had another touchdown. Everybody falls into, we are about winning. I love that attitude, and we're not giving Sirianni enough credit for keeping all of the egos of every player in check to a degree, because it's hard. It's hard to not be at the half-yard line and Saquon not get another touchdown.
Yeah, I
be
mean,
real.
Nick Sirianni Day. We can make that today because Jeff been talking about it all year.
Give it a round of applause.
Nick Sirianni, you are a great football coach. Congratulations.
I have it written in my notes.
I like it.
Give Jeff his love. Because Sirianni should be able to poke his chest out.
Yeah, he should. He deserves it.
Absolutely.
Like this.
The thing that I think Jeff started to hint towards is it's really hard, particularly for Jalen Hurts, to experience a lot of this stuff as criticism when he's like, I can do that.
Right.
I just don't have to.
That's
But
right.
that's the thing. Like,
And then us seeing them have so much success without him doing that, it gets to the point where we're like, but can he do it?
Yeah.
And that's the question is we saw it last year, they struggled offensively. And this year they're back, not struggling. And it's not because of Jalen Hurts. And I think that's probably a hard thing for a quarterback who's had a big contract, who's been in the MVP race, who's been to the Super Bowl, to have to hear week in and week out, which is why I don't think he's talking to Sirianni.
Right.
I think he's looking at us like,
I think
I guess I got the straight jacket
Right,
on.
which is the same as, I don't know if it was week 17, whenever they played, coming out of playing the Steelers. And it's like, is that what y'all wanted to see? Cool. Because Jalen understands exactly who he is. I think it's the narrative surrounding him has always sort of been like, he's good, nah, he's not great.
Right.
It feels like quarterbacks get credit for doing what they're asked to do. But when Jalen does exactly what he's asked to do, it's like, because he can't do
But I mean, I think the thing is that he starts getting put in the conversation with these other guys. And so, like, we have the same situation with Lamar and Josh Allen, where we're like, you're so good that we have to measure you by this different standard. And Jalen, we're like, you're in this place, so we're going to start measuring you with the other guys that find themselves continuously in this place. And that's when it feels like criticism, where we're saying, well, you're good, but you're not Josh, you're not Lamar.
Well, and let's just not pretend that the things that happened didn't happen. Right? He was on this, I know it feels like a different lifetime ago. He was on this ridiculously long streak where he turned the ball over in every game, right? I mean, that just kept every single week. And then they stopped. They had their bye week very early, and they said, here's what we're going to do. We're just not going to do that again because our defense is ridiculously good. Vic Fangio is going to figure that out. Saquon can take over the league, which he did. So we're just going to stop putting the ball in harm's way. And that's what they did, and it worked. But we can't pretend that stuff didn't all happen once. It all happened.
No, absolutely. And I think all teams have to pivot throughout a season of what's, because by the way, their defense wasn't balling at that point.
At the beginning,
They were, you know what I mean? And so everybody was kind of finding their fit. Fangio was trying to figure out their defense. They're trying to, Kellen Moore's trying to figure out their offense because, by the way, there are two new coordinators involved in this organization. So having to find their way of winning. But to your point, you do limit turnovers by running the